Man, how is it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Episode 33 of In Hindsight for your Saturday. Yes, your Saturday, folks. We are back on schedule. Last week, we had to do Sunday, Monday because of my own personal and work schedule. We had to shuffle things around. Stuff happens sometimes, but if you guys have kind of been, which I'm assuming, for everyone that's kind of been tuning into the videos lately and everything like that, I'm sure that you guys are pretty well aware. For anybody that's new here, as I mentioned, we're back on schedule here, but this is actually the last weekend of our current podcast schedule and everything like that. I guess you can say we're entering a new chapter a little bit. So with it being football season, folks, right now, I had this in the back of my mind really for about a month, well, over a month now, that I was going to change things. But really the last few weeks, I knew really what we were going to do on this channel going forwards and, really how we were going to shuffle things up. So I've been saying really every video, just putting it out there, a heads up in regards of really what to expect going forward here once football season starts. So obviously this weekend was really the big kickoff. This weekend, really the big kickoff for college football, which is exciting. I actually had a little bit of the Oklahoma game on, Penn State, Wisconsin, so I'm sure you guys are probably tuning in, watching some college football, stuff like that, which is great. But yeah, so this is normal schedule for this weekend, Saturday, today, tomorrow, but this is really the last weekend for that because, like I said, as I've been saying the last few weeks, we're shuffling things up, and I want to, and I have to because of football time, football schedule. So, Friday, it's going to be going forward after this weekend, so going into next week. Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday is going to be the podcast schedule moving forward. Fridays is we're really just going to really wrap everything up that's kind of been going on throughout the week on Fridays around the league from NFL, college football, or basketball during that time. NBA, NHL, MLB. Really everything that's really worth kind of taking our time and really diving into on this channel and talking about. That's everything going to be happening Friday. Recapping Thursday Night Football, all those kind of things. Saturday, as you know, I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I'm a Steeler fan. So if you're a fan of Pittsburgh sports, a Steeler fan, Saturdays is definitely you want to tune into that. Because I really just kind of going over and previewing the Steeler game going into Sunday or whatever day they're playing, whether it's a Monday or Thursday. But that's really what that's going to be. Also, in as well with everything else that's happening in regards of Pittsburgh. Now, I am a Duke fan for college basketball, so sorry about it, but I still want to see Pitt do good. I'm not like a fan, but I still want to see him succeed. So I'll probably implement Pitt stuff as well into that. As they're getting their stuff going. But that's going to be on Saturdays, so like I said, if you're a Pittsburgh fan of any kind, you definitely want to tune into that. And even if you're not, even if you just enjoy my content, want to sit back, listen to what I got to say, feel free. You're welcome. You're always, you're welcome here regardless. So, and then Monday, it's going to be, we're really just going to be recapping, going over what happened with the Steeler game Monday. And then Tuesday, I'm going to be going over everything coming out of the weekend, right? So from, like I said, college, NFL, things like that, Monday night, we're going to be talking about everything. Even if there's other things, it's really going to be primarily football on Tuesday, but anything else if there's things that are definitely worthy of talking about that might have happened in other areas of sports, stuff like that, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. Now, if the Steelers would play on a Monday night or a Thursday night, then obviously I'm not going to do that show Monday, so we'll kind of flip-flop that. And then if they play Thursday night, whoever plays Thursday night, we incorporate that in Friday's show. So that's going to be the schedule moving forward, folks. Just a heads up for, any of you guys that might be unaware of that or anything. That will be the schedule going forward. So, but yeah, so I thank you guys for just taking the time out of your weekends. Hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday, enjoying college football. It's just great that it's that time of the year, man. We're all happy about it. We all love it. It's that time. So thank you all for tuning in. I know I say it every video. I can never really say it enough, honestly. Your guys' support always means everything to me. So if you're new here, hopefully you guys enjoy the content. And, we can have some good sports discussion with everybody that tunes into this channel and things like that. So it always means a lot. But also, with us kind of going in a different direction with this channel and things like that, we're going to be having really even a new look to the channel and stuff like that. So I'm going to hit the intro. We're going to hit the intro. And this is actually going to be the last weekend you see the current intro because, you know, with us shaking things up, I figured I'm going to shake up the look of the channel and things like that. So this is going to be the last weekend of the intro. So we're going to hit that and we're going to get right into the show here, folks, for episode 33. All right, we'll see you on the other side. Oh, man. You know, it is absolutely great just being able to walk outside and you can just smell football season, man. You honestly can. We're inching closer and closer to fall season, which is my favorite time of the year, by the way. I love it. There's nothing better than a nice, crisp, cool fall night, drinking a cold brew. You know, I love wearing my hoodies and stuff like that as well. There's nothing like it. The scenery, leaves changing colors, leaves on the grounds, football season. But right now, I mean, like I said, you just walk outside. It's just that time, man. It's that time. It's the best time of the year, folks. Well, aside from Christmas. But it's the best time of the year right now, man. And I think all of us as football fans, honestly, there's really no better feeling. So I'm very happy we are finally at this point in time of the year. Summer's gone. Summer's over. See you later. Thanks for coming. Waste of everybody's time this year. But yeah, anyway, so I've been wanting to do, like I said, I've been wanting to do this show for quite a while now. I've kind of had it in the back of my head. And like I said, I've kind of mentioned this before on the podcasts too. But you know, this show's really primarily, we're just looking at everything Steelers, man. We're looking at their outlook this year. We're looking at, what we can expect this year, what I think is going to happen, my own kind of predictions, where the current team stands, their ceilings, their floors, possibly high and lows of this team. So that's really what we're going to be doing, and even it's going to be pretty reminiscent tomorrow, except we're really just going to go division by division and really just kind of break down all the teams. It's not just going to be no blind, I see them doing this, or I see... No, we're actually going to be putting in depth detail, really into everything we can regarding whatever teams we're going to cover. Well, we're going to cover all the teams, but you know what I mean. We're going to put in as much as we can and really just break things down and really, kind of look at the outlooks at the 31 other teams, too. So these are just kind of things I've been wanting to do for a while, but like I said, I just, I didn't want to do anything like this before the preseason and things like that. Moves can be made, trades can be made, teams can kind of look different. I think it was really the best and fair to do, when we're pretty close to week one. So, and I thought, no better fitting way either as we kind of end the current the current state of the podcast. And as we transition, just as I talked about before the intro, as we transition kind of in a new chapter of the podcast next week, which I'm very excited about. But anyway, really before we kind of get into the outlook of this team and really kind of break things down, I guess, and, really get into the nitty-gritty here, I do want to go over some of the news that happened with this team, over the last 2 or 3 days. So we had cut week. And we saw a bunch of people get cut. I mean, personally, I don't really think there was really surprises necessarily. I think there was a little surprise in regards of how many positions or how many guys they kept at a certain position, maybe. But really, the final 3-man roster of this team. A lot of it was pretty predictable. There were some kind of things that maybe were a little surprising. We'll kind of get into it. But really the final 53-man roster of this team, we're obviously sitting at the quarterbacks, Big Ben, Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins. Josh Dobbs suffered an injury in preseason. They put him on the IR. I'm not sure if he's out for the year. Oh, sorry, not hit my camera. Not sure if he's out for the year or not sure if he's just going to be on the IR for X amount of weeks and maybe move to the practice squad. I really have no clue. But that's the quarterback situation. Now, running backs, we have, who made the team, we have, obviously, Harris, right? Anthony McFarland, Benny Snell, Kalen Ballage. Now, Anthony McFarland is one of 3 guys that have been moved to the short-term IR, so he's going to be out the first 3 weeks. Must have had a nagging injury from the last preseason game and whatever, wherever that might have taken place at. So he's going to be out the first 3 weeks. Now, they did cut Jalen Samuels, but they did keep him on the practice squad. I didn't think they were going to cut Benny Snell. I mean, this guy only played in 1 preseason game. He's missed all of camp, but I think they do like him as a secondary kind of running back. It's not that Benny Snell's bad, but it's just I felt like other guys just really took advantage of opportunity, and I feel like him and Ballage are kind of similar in regards to their play style too, so I didn't really understand keeping 2 of those guys, but with McFarland out, it is what it is. Fullback Derek Watt, Trey Edmonds is back on the practice squad. I swear this guy's been on the team for like 4 years now, and he's been on the practice squad every year. But Derek Watt is your starting fullback. Offensive line. Now, this was the projected offensive line going into this season. Okorafor at left tackle, Dotson, Kendrick Green, Trey Turner, and Zack Banner at right tackle. That was the projected offensive line. Zack Banner is injured again. I'm honestly not sure if it is a knee injury. I'm not sure if it is something else. I honestly didn't do my due diligence and look at that and really see the injury. I just saw that he was placed on IR with an injury. It might be a knee injury. I don't know. But Zack Banner, he tore his ACL the first week last season. And Zack Banner, he didn't really he didn't really play much in the preseason either. But he's out the first 3 weeks. So now they're moving Okorafor to right tackle, and Dan Moore is going to be the starting left tackle the first 3 weeks of the season, at least, which I honestly like this offensive line better than having Banner and Okorafor left tackle. Reason why: Okorafor has looked very shaky at left tackle. It is a hard transition. He wasn't bad, I don't think, by any means last year. He wasn't out of this world. He was okay, but it is a hard transition moving from side to side, you know what I mean? And Dan Moore, he was playing left tackle really all preseason, and he just had a phenomenal camp. Aside from Dotson, I mean, he was the highest rated offensive lineman. If you like PFF, I'm not a PFF fan, but if you like PFF, obviously you're going to put in a stock of this. He was, I believe, their highest rated offensive lineman. And I believe in the preseason, I don't know if he was the highest rated tackle, but he was definitely up there. But nonetheless, I mean, he had a great preseason, very impressive, shut guys down, didn't give up any sacks, limited a lot of pressure on the quarterback, whoever was in there. Really gained a lot of traction and movement up front, him and Dotson on that left side in particular. So I would much rather have this offensive line going in week 1 than vice versa. So that's your offensive line. The depth behind there, obviously Banner, but he's out. They did cut Rashad Coward and they did cut BJ Finney, but they brought them back on the 53 simply because the injury reasons. They have Joe Haig, who is a backup at Tampa Bay last year. He's on there. J.C. Hosner. And, so that's really your glimpse of the offensive line right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and make a move possibly before the season starts, maybe to strengthen the tackle position possibly. Wouldn't be surprised at all, so keep your eye on that. Receivers, obviously, it's really the same as last year. Juju, Deontay, Claypool, Washington, Ray McLeod. And then your tight ends is Ebron, Freiermuth. I believe Zach Gentry's the third tight end. So that's your offense. And that's your offense on the 53. Now, if we're going to let's look at the other side of the ball. They did keep 8 defensive linemen after cuts, right? So as they're making their cuts, they kept 8 defensive linemen. The reason for this, I think Stephon Tuitt was the third and last man on the short-term IR. He's dealing with it. Supposedly, he's dealing with a knee injury, but I believe he's still kind of going through the process of losing his brother, as we've talked about last week. So he's out at least the first 3 weeks. Hopefully, he can come back into that. But Chris Wormley has had, I think, he's looked fairly nice throughout preseason. Isaiah Buggs, Carlos Davis, they've been having some good moments in preseason as well. So you're going to have Hayward, Alu. I'm assuming Chris Wormley will probably get the nod there at the other side. Bugs, Carlos Davis, Henry Mondu, but Henry Mondu was actually just released yesterday because the Steelers did make a trade, which we will get into shortly here. So Mondu, but he's gone. And then they also have Isaiah Loudermilk, who also had a pretty solid preseason as well there at defensive end. So what is that? Tuitt, Alu, Hayward, Mondu. Making sure it's 8. Loudermilk, Wormley, Bugs, Davis. Yes. So now with Mondu gone, they're down to 7. They're at 6 now with Tuitt on the IR. So there you go. So for the first 3 weeks, honestly, it is what it is. Yes, not having Tuitt there definitely hurts defensively. He had a great year last year. He's been a pretty solid player for this defense over the years, really, since he came into the league. But it is what it is. It's just how it is, and I don't really think that defensive line is really going to hurt too much because they have a good they have some decent guys I think they can call upon. So I think it's going to be Wormley week 1. So that's your defensive line. Your linebackers inside: Devin Bush, Joe Schobert, Robert Spillane. Now this was a surprise too. They kept 6 inside linebackers. Marcus Allen, who is hurt. I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. I don't know if he's going to be out. Now, I'm thinking if he is out a little bit, possibly. This is why maybe they kept an extra inside linebacker. Marcus Allen, Buddy Johnson, the rookie this year, and Ulysses Gilbert. I was surprised they kept Ulysses Gilbert. He hasn't really done anything the last 3 years to really show that he deserves to really be on this team. I was assuming he'd probably be on the practice squad, but no, they're keeping 6. So it's possibly because of the Marcus Allen injury. So I don't know. Maybe if they make another move, something will be done there. But that's your inside linebacker group. Your edge, TJ Watt. We're still waiting on a TJ Watt extension. There's really nothing to talk about there. It's just been said it's getting closer and closer to being done as the days have gone on. He's supposed to be the highest paid player, defensive player in the league, and the highest paid linebacker in NFL history. According to sources, take it with a grain of salt. Hopefully it gets done soon. You're going to have Highsmith. Jameer Jones made this team, which I've been saying he probably looked the best out of all the depth edge guys, aside from Melvin Ingram. He looked the best. He definitely earned a spot for sure. I think he outperformed Quincy Roche. He outperformed Cassius Marsh and everybody else they have there. So Jameer Jones makes it, and then Melvin Ingram, that's your 4. I think it's possible they could add an extra edge guy. A lot of people were upset with the Roche cut. I honestly wasn't very surprised by it, but the Giants did pick him up through waivers, which definitely kind of sucks because as a 6th-round guy, I think he's supposed to be a mid-round pick, but he started to fall. As a 6th-round guy, he definitely deserves, he definitely deserved to, he got there was a lot of hype coming out of him when the Steelers drafted him. There was excitement, possibly a sleeper guy, but that happens. That's the risk the Steelers went with. They wanted him back on the practice squad, but that's the risk it comes with. So maybe he might become something the Giants. Maybe it might be a Tuzar Skipper 2.0. I really don't know. But I honestly wasn't surprised by the cut at all. So that's your edge. Now your secondary. The Steelers made a trade yesterday. They acquired Akello Witherspoon. He played for, I was trying to just make sure I got his name right. Akello Witherspoon, he played for the San Francisco 49ers last year. He signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with Seattle this offseason. Now, I'm honestly pretty unfamiliar with him. When I heard his name, he sounded kind of familiar. He started 4 games, played 11 games total with San Francisco. Again, if you're a PFF guy, he was ranked as one of the best cornerbacks all around last year, which is great. He's supposedly pretty strong in coverage. He's really not, in regards of his tackling and things like that, not really that strong in that kind of suit. He's not a cornerback. Obviously, that's going to get to the quarterback. Doesn't play. He's not a slot guy or a nickel guy, so you're not going to see him what we saw out of Mike Hilton or anything. The thing that I've been hearing, though, is that when he's on. Like, he's honestly red hot, locked down. But when he's off, and if he kind of gets burnt or struggles throughout a game, he kind of lacks confidence, and it's hard for him to kind of regroup and bounce back as the game kind of goes on. So that's something, I guess, to look out for. That's definitely more of a mental thing. You can't really coach that, but it definitely is a good move for the Steelers. They only gave up a 5th-round pick in 2023 for him. It definitely strengthens that cornerback group, which they needed that. Now, I don't really know if he's going to come here and I don't know if they're wanting him to compete with Pierre. I don't know if they're, just kind of seeing him as a depth guy, as that 4th cornerback, which they needed. I'm not really sure how they're going to go about that. I'd imagine we'd see Witherspoon a little bit on the field, as the year kind of goes on. It definitely was a move that needed to be made because they needed to go out and get another cornerback. They had to. They only had 4 they kept. Now, they did bring back Arthur Millette on the 53-man prior to the 3 IR guys that got placed on IR. And I believe they brought back Mark Gilbert as well, and he's on the practice squad. So those were kind of 2 cornerbacks in camp that the Steelers did like. So it is good they were able to bring them back. But they had to go out and make a move. They had to go out and make a move for that 4th guy. And they did, and I'm fine with it. It seems like there's a little up and down there, but hopefully he can just kind of get himself, maybe work on that confidence, on that mentality, and things like that, if that's really what he needs to do, because from what I've seen, what I've heard, there definitely is promise. There definitely are really good abilities and really good things that he shows and that he has, but, he's got to work on the mentals, I guess. So, definitely a move that needed to be made. I'm fine with the move. We'll see how he does. It's been said he definitely is starting caliber. I guess we got to wait and see. But they made the move they needed to make, so thumbs up for me on that. And then, so you got Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, who's primarily going to be in the slot, I think, for the most part. James Pierre, obviously Witherspoon, Millette, and Justin Lane. And in your safeties, you have Minka, Terrell Edmonds, Miles Killebrew, who really is primary special teams. Trey Norwood, who they like a lot, 7th-round rookie. And then they also signed Carl Joseph to the practice squad from the Las Vegas Raiders. He'll probably be on the 53-man roster sooner than later, which I think is completely fine as a 3rd safety. He's a guy that's pretty versatile, can move around. He can play up front as well. So that just kind of adds to some depth there in the secondary. So that's really your look at your 53-man roster, really after cuts. Okay. What was the other thing I wanted to go over? There was one other thing. Okay. So, we have, sometimes, like I said, what I'll do is I'll just kind of put things down. I feel like there's something I'm missing, really, before I want to get into everything. Okay, not really. So, now, also, one other guy they did lose on waivers was Antoine Brooks. Antoine Brooks, it's really weird. Antoine Brooks, man, he, I believe he was a 5th-round pick last year, I think, or a 6th-round pick, I can't remember, out of Maryland. Didn't really play, really. He was on the practice squad a lot. But this year, they really wanted him to take that leap, and they were really, I think, kind of focusing in on him possibly being the slot cornerback, the nickel cornerback of the team this year. But he struggled, he got an injury toward the last 2 weeks of the preseason and just wasn't really able to recover from that. So they decided to cut him. They did bring him back on the practice squad, but the Rams actually claimed him. I guess maybe before he was put on there. I really don't know. I know teams can grab guys from practice squads too. So anyway, the Rams picked him up. So they did lose Roche and they lost Antoine Brooks. It is what it is. Sometimes when you make those waiver moves, that's just what happens. You hope you can keep guys on the PS, but there's no guarantee. So Antoine Brooks is out, which I was kind of surprised by. There was supposed to be, like I said, he was supposed to be a guy that takes a leap for this defense his second year. It didn't happen, but it is what it is. So best of luck, Antoine, and what can you do? But really, the outlook of this team, man, really after last year, we know last year was a debacle with this team. I've gone over it a lot. Really, since then, and really what we've been seeing, I think, a lot throughout the offseason, there's been a lot of people that have been writing the Steelers off, Big Ben off. And I'm just going to talk about that real quick before I really get into this team and my own thoughts on their current standing. Yes, I'm a Steeler fan, but when I talk about the Steelers, I do everything I can to leave bias out. I think really whenever anybody talks about their favorite team, yes, I think there's always a portion of biasy, but the thing is, when I talk about him, I always say what needs to be said, and I am real and upfront about it. So, it was a complete debacle last year. Absolutely. And a lot of it was the offense. You had very poor play calling. Teams really got in on the Steelers' offense and how they were operating. They knew they couldn't run the ball for anything. The Steelers just became more and more one-dimensional as the season went on. Teams were wanting Big Ben to throw the deep ball. Teams were really playing the short passing game. They caught on to it. They caught on to it as the season went on. And when you become so one-dimensional like that, I think in a way I've never really seen the Steelers' offense before. I don't know what you expect here. I don't know what you expect to happen. That was really the downfall of the team. They couldn't score points. They couldn't stay on the field offensively. They couldn't run the ball. The offensive line was a disaster. I really think that was the downfall, and really the main reason for the downfall last year, going 1-4 their last 5 games. So, really since that playoff loss to Cleveland, really since then and kind of throughout the draft, and I feel a little bit throughout the summer, the Steelers have they've definitely have been kind of written off by a lot of people. And I was just kind of sitting back saying, we just got to wait and see. A lot of times we see when teams really play very well throughout the year and you see them really kind of fall at the tail end. A lot of times you see them really kind of quietly just kind of pan together things, fill holes they need to fill, and they come back as a better overall team. They might not have a better record. They might not start 11-0, but they come back as a better balanced overall team. And I was just kind of sitting back and just letting them do whatever they need to do. And I think really the Steelers throughout the offseason really filled a lot of needs. Sure, there's some things that aren't, like the sexy standout name or things like that. But I feel like they did what they needed to do in regards of what we saw last year and what they had to get better at and what they had to fill. So I understand some of the arguments that and some of the reasons that have been stated why people might think the Steelers aren't a playoff team this year. Things like that, as the offseason was kind of going on. But that's what I was saying. You got to wait and see what the team does. They aren't going to be bringing back the exact same team as last year. Obviously not. So we saw what they did in the draft. We saw moves they made in free agency. We saw some kind of surprising releases as well. So I was just waiting back and seeing. So we saw that they added Najee Harris in the draft. They drafted Pat Freiermuth. They drafted 2 young offensive linemen in the draft. We know they added Trey Turner in free agency. They added Melvin Ingram. Who am I missing here? I feel like I'm missing somebody else too. Let me think. Why am I blanking out? I understand they lost, and then they added Joe Schobert. That's the other guy I was thinking of. Then they added Joe Schobert through a trade with Jacksonville. Yes, they lost Bud Dupree. Okay. Did you guys not see what Alex Highsmith did last year in Bud Dupree's spot? Alex Highsmith's production last year was better than anything Bud Dupree did his first 3 seasons on this team. Alex Highsmith has a very high ceiling, and he's going to be your guy. I have no problem switching out there. Losing Mike Hilton sucks, yes. Steven Nelson was cut. I think he was disgruntled and things like that. I don't really think we all know all the story. So yes, they lost 3 of those guys, okay? Vince Williams retired. They almost lost to Alu, but he came back, which is good. But now, okay, so now you bring back Cam Sutton. They like James Pierre a lot, who, these young guys, man, like, just because, like, okay, yeah, you lost Steven Nelson. James Pierre, in his limited amount of time last year, yeah, he showed good things. He had a great camp. He had a very good preseason. A lot of times, guys need opportunities. Younger guys need opportunities. So how are you going to know what these guys are going to be without that? So yeah, they lost Steven Nelson, but they like James Pierre a lot. So let's see what he can do. They just made a move for Witherspoon. So sure, On paper, their cornerback position doesn't really look as good as it was last year, but who knows? It could be better. It could be the same, depending how James Pierre plays. The Steelers still have a top 5 defense, which is pretty crazy. It's just a testament of their talent. I think between them and probably Washington, they have probably the best front 7 in the league. The upgrade to Joe Schobert at inside linebacker was a phenomenal move, and that really helped out and strengthened that. So, really what we've been hearing kind of in the offseason, yes, like I said, a lot of people, I think, have been writing the Steelers off, whether it's people in the Pittsburgh media, the national sports media, fans, whatever it might be. And sure, you've had your people saying, let's wait and see what they do. It's the Steelers, man. It's hard to really kind of bet against them. Really, the things people were bringing up in regards to why they're writing off the Steelers is really primarily the offensive line, the concerns about Big Ben, the running game. None of it's defensively, which it shouldn't be. They're still one of the best defenses in the league, as they have been the last 2 or 3 years. So, okay, I understand some of that, but I feel like that these people were failing to really put into perspective everything that kind of went down. This even entails to, people doubting Big Ben. I feel like they were just really failing to see and put things into perspective here, because when we saw really the tail end of the year and the collapse, yes, the offensive line was primarily bad all last year. Yes, Big Ben didn't look very good the last 5 games of the season, They couldn't run the ball to save their lives. The play calling was terrible. That's really the mixture of everything, but that's what I'm saying. I feel like they don't put in perspective, like, you understand they're going to do things to make that shit better. They're going to do things to retool, and that's what they did. They completely retooled their offensive line. They brought in the best running back in the draft, who's their future running back for the next several years. Right? You still have a top 5 defense. I'll get into Big Ben in a minute. You add Pat Freiermuth, who's going to bring a big element to the running game because he's a great blocking tight end. He's got great hands. He can open up the field. He was the best all-around tight end in the draft. So now you bring that in. Right? You drafted Kendrick Green, who's a very young, physical, athletic rookie. You bring in Dan Moore, who's had the best preseason. Who's had a great preseason. Okay. So now you're younger and you're more athletic on your offensive line. You're more physical. So I expect the O-line to get better. But this is what I'm saying. I just feel like, people saying it really before free agency and really kind of really up to the draft. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Let's wait and see what they do. So we see what they did, and I definitely think, looking at it, I honestly think it will be a better overall team than what it was last year. So the people really writing them off, I feel like they just were never really putting into perspective their failures and them falling off at the tail end. With Big Ben, you have your people that were writing him off, doubting him, things like that. I never doubted Big Ben once this offseason. It's always hard for me to bet against Mike Tomlin and Big Ben and things like that. And again, the people that have written Big Ben off this offseason, again, they failed to really put into perspective really his downfall last year. Big Ben, throughout really the first half of the season, was being talked about as an MVP candidate. Big Ben changed his game last year. We saw him get rid of the ball very quickly. Yes, we know short passing, underneath passes, things like that. He was kind of changing his game. He, was wanting to limit the hits. I think he was still kind of seeing what he could all do with his arm being repaired. But when you just have a really bad running game, and as the year goes on and as more teams kind of really focus in on that, I don't know what you expect the guy to do. He's 38 years old. He's coming off a catastrophic elbow injury where he missed all of 2019 from. Okay? He's being asked to throw the ball 50 to 60 passes. The play calling's as bland as it could ever be. I don't know what to tell you. So sure, Ben had his faults last year. But the people that were writing him off or saying, oh, he's done, or his arm, or things like that, you're failing to put in perspective, my friend, everything that he had to deal with. If Big Ben had a decent running game last year, he would have been much more effective. I don't think we would have seen the downfall that we saw. I don't think we would have seen that. People doubting the arm strength was not a problem last year. You could clearly see he could still get the ball down the field. I think it was more of the accuracy. I think it was more of the lower body mechanics, the mobility. That was the issue for him. And yes, having an offensive line that was doing a terrible job at pass protection, giving him some extra time in the pocket, definitely hurt him as well. And like I said, not being able to run a yard definitely hurt him as well. All the drop passes that led in the NFL last year did not hurt him as well. So how about you put all these things in perspective here and see these things were also reasons as to why he struggled at the end of last year as well. And really the downfall as a team as a whole. It's not all on him. I think Big Ben, with where he was at last year, being 38, coming off that surgery, I thought he had a pretty solid season. 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I understand if you want to look deeper into the stats in regards of passing yards or downfield percentage, completion percentage, things like that. I understand that. But you got to put it all into perspective as to why maybe he wasn't getting the ball down the field, why his accuracy was off, why he was kind of pushed back a little bit on not airing the ball out more, being more reserved, And as the year went on, like I said, he's throwing it 50, 60 times. That's a recipe for disaster. I think Big Ben, for the situation, I thought he had a solid season. I did. And if this was normal Big Ben, obviously it would have been a different story. We wouldn't have seen that. But they just have failed over the last several months of really explaining as to why we saw Big Ben kind of falling off at the end of the season last year. And sure, he had his own issues too. Accuracy problems, the tip passes, failing to connect down the field. Yes, absolutely. But there's so much more to that than just that on him. So now this year, he has a retooled and a much younger offensive line, which, is it going to be great? No. But it's a question mark. I don't think it's fair to say it's bad, because anyone saying their offensive line right now is bad, I don't really think that's a fair statement to make, because they have a completely different offensive line. I think we have to wait and see how they play. I think it's just a question mark. It could be bad, it could be decent, it could be good for all we know. Who knows? You have Kevin Dotson, who's the full-time starter now, rookie left tackle, rookie center, Trey Turner, who's new this year, and you have Okorafor back to right tackle, who wasn't bad at right tackle by any means last year. So I think let's wait and see how the offensive line does. I don't think it can get any worse. I think it will be a little bit better. They have a new offensive line coach. Now you have a dynamic running back in Harris, who, yes, is a very good runner, but he also brings a very good receiving game, outlook and, dynamic to the offense now, which they didn't have. So now you have that. Big Ben still has a good plethora of offensive weapons around him. He brings in Pat Fryermuth's brought in now. So now, since you have that, I think that's going to make Big Ben that much more effective. Now you also have a new offensive coordinator who loves a lot of pre-snap motion. I think we're going to be seeing more play action. We're obviously going to be seeing more on the run, getting back to that. That's going to make Ben that much better. That's going to give him more time to throw. That's going to make that they're not going to be that one-dimensional like they were. So it's going to be a different offense, a different system, which is what was needed. So, yes, last year, I think Ben did have a solid season. I think it's kind of foolish to say, if anyone says he was bad last year, I don't really know what to tell you. Yes, he was pretty bad toward the end of last year. But again, anyone that's been doubting him this offseason or writing him off, I think you're just failing to put everything in perspective here. I think Ben still has things in the tank. I think he still has his arm strength. And even as he said in a press conference, and I even said this too, really being out for a year in football doesn't do any good. And, you have to kind of see what you can and what you can't do with your arm now. And I don't know how he was personally feeling, but as he said in a press conference a few weeks ago, or a month ago, that last year he didn't really know what normal felt, coming off that elbow, really getting back into the mix of things, really what he can all do. Now he knows what normal feels like. Now he knows it feels like it was back to that feeling and kind of how it was before that injury. And so now you're really a full year removed from that, which is great and bodes well for him. And I've been saying that. So I just personally, in my opinion, I just feel like these people have really failed to put into perspective really what he had to deal with last year. And I think if you just give him a decent run game last year, he would have been more effective, for sure. But this year, I definitely think we're definitely going to see some play action. We're going to see Big Ben airing it more. I think we're going to see him getting the ball down the field more. We're going to see a much more effective running game than what we saw last year, for sure. I think, obviously it's a different offensive system, so we're clearly going to be seeing different play calling, a different offense. I think it's really going to make him that much more effective. So that's really what we've been hearing and kind of what we've been seeing in the offseason, but I wanted to put my own 2 cents out there as to why I think that those people saying that have kind of did a piss-poor job at their evaluation of everything. But I was not doubting Tomlin or Big Ben at all this offseason. I don't really see how you really can. They've never had a losing record together. They've been highly successful as head coach and quarterback. I just don't know how you can really doubt that. So that's really what we were kind of hearing really throughout the offseason, kind of into the summer. But it's funny because really throughout camp, there was reports about, Big Ben, he's kind of doing a Tom Brady diet. I don't know why people want to compare people to Tom Brady because Tom Brady's just a different element than everybody else. But Big Ben, and yes, we've seen his body kind of change over the last few years. But really, and particularly this year, he definitely looks the slimmest he's looked. And this, I'm talking this before the preseason game. He definitely looked the slimmest he's looked. What we were seeing in camp and stuff like that, he looked really good with his arm motion. He looked really good in regards to moving around, things like that. Yes, it's training camp. You're not in an actual game. I understand. But, it was funny because now, really once the Steelers got into camp and they really kind of did a lot of different moves in the offseason through the draft, stuff like that, it's kind of funny because we're starting to see some more people kind of reel back and retract, right? So let's fast forward here to Big Ben's preseason game, week 2, but really the third preseason game for Pittsburgh. Big Ben looked phenomenal. He looked absolutely phenomenal. And I didn't hear one person disagreeing with that. He looked great. He looked like Big Ben of old. There was one play where he dropped back, moved to the left. I believe it was the first series. Third down, dropped back, moved to the left, did a little pump fake, rolled out right, hit Ebron with a beautiful pass. He dropped it, of course. He looked great. He looked trimmed. He looked slim. He looked just healthy, moving around. His arm movement, his arm motion, it looked great. There was one beautiful pump fake pass that fooled the camera guy. And he hit Freiermuth in the end zone. He went 8 for 10, I believe, 130 some yards or so, 140, 2 TDs. He looked amazing. He looked phenomenal. And it was funny because after that, everyone's, is Big Ben, is he primed for a year this year? Everybody kind of, all these people kind of going back. I'm like, no, it's too late, dude. It's too late. Jump on the bandwagon. Like I said, I never doubted Big Ben or Tomlin this all offseason. I didn't. And I thought really throughout the offseason, I was just wanting to see what they were going to do, and I thought they did things well in the draft. I thought they made some moves that definitely needed to be made through free agency, and I definitely think at this current time they're sitting. I think they're sitting as overall a better team, overall a lot more balanced than what we saw last year. And I think there's more people from what I've been hearing and seeing too. I think there's more people in the media that are really kind of coming to that conclusion, and really after we saw, kind of as we kind of got more into camp and as we saw Big Ben and throughout the preseason, I think we really started to hear more people kind of track back and say, hey, don't sleep on the Steelers, man, and stuff like that. And there's been people that have been holding by the Steelers too, which is great. But the people that have kind of been doubting or kind of, it's, sometimes it's like, oh, well, I just don't really know what to expect from this team this year. I think that they could do this, or maybe they could do this. And there's people just kind of tracking back saying, don't sleep on them. I was wrong. Or, I definitely think this team can have a lot of success, things like that, which is great, But I've been staying by them the whole time. So that's really my thoughts on the current situation in regards of Big Ben, because I just kind of wanted to talk about him because there was a lot of talk in the offseason. He looks phenomenal. So, yes, so really at the end of the day, yes, I think this is a better team this year than what we saw last year. They're definitely more balanced. I think as a whole, they're a stronger unit. So going into, so really, like I said, the outlook of this team, they're definitely going to be a top 5 defense. They have arguably the best front 7 in the league. They still have one of the better secondaries. Obviously, yes, still the concerns the offensive line, but it's a question mark, and I think we have to wait and see. Yes, it's younger. Yes, it's more athletic. It's more physical. What we were seeing, there was definitely a good push. Good physicality, I think that we were seeing, particularly from that left side as well in the preseason that we were seeing. So those are definitely good. That's promising. Those are good signs. I think Big Ben's gonna I think he's gonna have a good year this year. I really do. I think he still has things left in the tank. He's got good skill guys. He's got good skill guys around him, which is great. So yeah, I definitely expect the defense to definitely, it's crazy. They're always like top 5 in sacks. I swear, they're either leading the NFL in sacks every year, or they're top 3, which is great. But other than receivers, they know how to draft pass rushers. But defensively, they'll definitely be in the top 5, no question about it. Offensively, yes, like I said, O-line's a question mark. We got to kind of wait and see, how things are kind of, brought about in regards to the new offensive system and things like that. But the offense, I definitely expect to be more effective. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I definitely expect them to get the ball down the field more efficiently. I definitely expect them to score more. I don't think it will be a top 10 offense, but I think that it will. I think it's an offense that can definitely be a middle of the pack offense. With a top tier defense like that, middle of the pack offense, I think that's great. I really do. So I kind of want to look through. I kind of want to go through their schedule by schedule here, and I'm going to pull that up real quick, game by game. So let me pull it up. Give me 1 minute here, folks. So this was kind of another thing too that people would kind of talk about in regards to how difficult of a schedule they have. They have the hardest schedule in the league. I find it funny because the Ravens have just as hard of a schedule, and people think this is they're amazing. But anyway, I never put a lot of stock into team schedules because the reason why I don't is because we see there's teams that were solid last year that could regress this year. There's teams that were bad last year that could have improvement this year. There's trades that could happen. There's moves that could happen. There's injuries that could happen. There's guys that could play better or worse than they did last year. You just don't know. Like, teams can look drastically different year to year. So week 1, this is definitely a very interesting game. They're in Buffalo week 1. Give me 1 second. They're in Buffalo week 1. Now, Buffalo's obviously favored. I think majority of the people would probably say Buffalo's going to win this game. So, Buffalo, we know they had a very good, successful year last year. They made the AFC Championship. Josh Allen had a breakout season last year. He was terrible his first 2 years. He finally, it seemed like he really got it together. They had Stephon Diggs. I'm still not, too huge on their defense. I think maybe their defense is a little bit better than it was last year. But nonetheless, Buffalo's definitely the favorite to win the AFC East. They're definitely a favorite to win the AFC. I definitely could see this being a pretty close game. I could. I'm not going to make my week-by-week predictions right now. I will a little bit later on in the show. But we see them going into Buffalo. So that's not an easy game by any stretch at all. But I definitely think they can compete against them in that game for sure. We see, then they come home. I'm going to be there. Raiders, week 1, or week 2, the home opener. So really we see week 2 and week 3, really favorable games in their favor. Then they got to go to Green Bay, which is not easy at all. Week 5, they're home against Denver and Seattle. I think those are 2 favorable games for them. Seattle's interesting. That'll be fun on a Sunday night. Seattle, I don't really know what to think of them this year. We'll kind of talk about it tomorrow. But definitely favorable that they're playing in Heintz Field for that game on Sunday night. And I think, we know how... I think, Big Ben's a beast on, those primetime. Week 8 at Cleveland. This is definitely going to be a interesting game. What time is this game at? Does it say? Does it say what time the game is? 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock game at Cleveland. Okay. So that's not going to be an easy game. Week 7's their bye. So another kind of middle of the season bye. That's fine. Week 8, so at Cleveland. And then they come home against Monday night, Chicago, and Detroit. Okay. Then they go to the Chargers. We know how the Steelers are in California. A lot of times it's not favorable out there. Then they go to Cincinnati. Now, this is their hardest part of the schedule. I really think their most favorable time of the schedule is really kind of that early middle on part of the schedule. The tail end of their schedule is brutal. It is. It's brutal. It's not easy at all. They're facing some pretty top tier teams. Excuse me. They got Baltimore week 13, Thursday night at Minnesota. Week 15 home against Tennessee. They go to Kansas City week 16, and then they round it off with Cleveland at home and Baltimore on the road. So, with them being in the division with Cleveland, Baltimore, it obviously doesn't help. Cleveland has finally gotten it right, it seems like, after all these years of poverty. They still are poverty, so sorry. If you're a Browns fan, I'm sorry, but Cleveland still is poverty. But anyway, they finally have gotten it right. It's about time, and it seems like they've gotten it right. Baltimore is definitely Baltimore's always been a very stable franchise. They're always more competitive than not. So kind of being in a division with those two teams doesn't help, but it just adds to the competition, the competitiveness. So really, definitely their hardest part of the schedule is the tail end. It's definitely difficult when you look at their roster. We'll see, or the teams they're facing. We'll see how things look come that time. But I really like the early on with the Raiders and Bengals, and as you kind of start hitting Denver, Seattle, Chicago, Detroit, possibly the Chargers, Cincinnati again. And that's really their favorable part in the end. The end of the schedule really might determine their season. And hopefully they can really start off hot in the season and, at least win the majority of those kind of early on games. Because once you start getting the end of this season here, those last 4 or 5 games, I think those last 5 games, I mean, that's going to be interesting. So yeah. So that's a look at their schedule, okay? Now, I kind of want to go into what I think each player is going to do this year, kind of statistically. I'm not going to go into, depth. But Big Ben, I could definitely see Big Ben this year in a new offense. I definitely think this offense will be... I see the offense being more effective. It's going to be very different. As I just talked about everything that he has as his arsenal this year, it will make him better. It will make him that much better. And like I said, I think Big Ben being really that year removed off now, I think that will make him that much more effective. He looks very healthy, in great shape, and he's ready to rock and roll, man. And he's ready to have a great year. I think Big Ben is going to have a good year. I think he's going to have a better year than he had last year. I think we'll see him, as long as there's not a lot of drop passes. I definitely think we'll see him throw for over 4,000. We're not going to be seeing 4,500-yard Big Ben, 5,000-yard Big Ben, but I definitely think we could see around that 4,000, maybe 4,100-yard mark. He'll definitely hit over 30 touchdowns. I mean, he usually does. He did pretty good last year at holding on to the ball. He did kind of struggle with turnovers as the year went on. I wonder why. I really want to see him not, really work on those batted down passes that we see. So, I think a little bit over 4,000 yards is definitely fair. Maybe around 35 touchdowns. And, we'll probably see double-digit INTs. That's usually kind of what we see. Probably around the same as last year. I could see maybe 11 or 12 INTs. I'm not going to be going to the nitty-gritty, but I think we'll see QBR rating. I think we'll see completion rating be up more. I think we'll see statistically yards per attempt will go up. I think we'll see, really kind of the deeper metrics in regards to completion down the field, things like that. I think we'll see more of a jump. I don't think we're going to be seeing Big Ben of 2018, 17, 16, 15, 14, but I definitely think we'll see a better Big Ben, a more consistent Big Ben, a more efficient Big Ben than what we saw last year. Najee Harris, I actually hit the over too because I like to sports bet. No brainer on, I believe it was on DraftKings. No, it might have been FanDuel. I think it was FanDuel. Big Ben over 4,000 passing yards. Najee Harris over 1,000 rushing yards. I hit that, no question. I think we'll see Harris with over 1,000. I think over 1,000, 1,100 is fair to say. I think we'll see, I could see 10 plus rushing touchdowns. I think he'll probably get around receiving touchdowns. I think we'll probably see, a decent amount because he definitely has that element that he's going to bring offensively to, in that landscape of the offense. He's going to bring that. I think Najee Harris will definitely have a successful season. Even though the offensive line's questionable, I still think he'll have success. I think Najee Harris, he's just that talented. He's that good at breaking tackles. He's that good at, yards after catch. He's that good at, he's that good. And I definitely think that we'll see, a pretty successful year out of him. Juju, I thought Juju had a pretty good year last year. People want to look at yardage a lot. I understand, he didn't hit over 1,000, but when you look at the routes they had him running was terrible. Juju's going to be playing more outside, which he should. I think he should have that opportunity more. He had 97 catches. I think he had 9 touchdowns last year. And Juju's very good at fighting for the extra yard. He's a very physical wide receiver. He definitely fits the mold of what Pittsburgh likes at wide receiver. I think I would love to see Juju hit over that 1,000-yard mark. I think with this offense, I think it will bode him better than what we saw. So I think with Juju, will have another nice year. I could see around maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns. I would love to see over 1,000. Maybe if he does get over 1,000, it'll probably be a little bit over 1,000. I think maybe we could put that there, or maybe the high 900s. I think we'll see. I think we'll still see around 90 some catches for him. I mean, he's a very reliable target. But if I'm going to go final stat line, I think we'll see around 90 some catches, probably 8 or 9 touchdowns. And I think we'll probably see in the 900s, maybe a little bit over 1,000. I think just because the new offense and the new system and, having, really a running game back implemented, I think will help him, will help that. I think Deontay's a very interesting wide receiver. Deontay, we know, struggled a lot with his drops, but a lot of people think he's the Steelers' best wide receiver. Deontay's very good with yards after the catch. He's very good at getting separation. His route running, I think his route running he probably has the best route running on the team. But the thing is, he's got to hold on the ball. He's an electric wide receiver. I could see maybe 70-some, 80-some catches for him, maybe in the high 900s in regards of his yards. He could get over 1,000. I mean, with his electricity, with his separation, with him being able to break away yards after the catch, he could definitely get over 1,000. I don't really view Deontay much as like a high tight end kind of receiver or high touchdown receiver kind of guy. I think maybe around 5 or 6 is probably around what we'll kind of see. But with there being a lot of pre-snap motion now, he could definitely be involved in some jet sweeps and stuff like that too. So I think really that's what we're seeing with Deontay. Chase Claypool. I think Chase Claypool had a pretty solid rookie year. Chase Claypool's definitely a freak of nature. He's definitely a quintessential wide receiver when you look at him. Long as he can stay on the field, which, he really did last year, it was just, he kind of got hurt in the preseason, so hopefully he can stay on the field. He definitely brings a big dynamic to the offense. I could see Claypool getting double-digit touchdowns again. I could, total, because, again, they're probably going to use him in jet sweeps as well. They're going to use him motioning around, handing the ball off, possibly at the goal line. I think we could see that. So I think Claypool probably around maybe 60 to 70 some receptions. Heck, it's possible he gets over 1,000. I'm not saying all 3 receivers are going to get over 1,000 yards. That's not going to happen. But I think all 3 wide receivers have the ability to get over 1,000. It really just kind of depends. It really just kind of depends how all 3 are really used in this offense. All 3 are very talented. But I could see Claypool getting around 67 catches, maybe somewhere in the 900s, maybe possibly double-digit touchdowns. I really think Claypool's ceiling is definitely 80. I think his ceiling is for this year 80-some catches, over 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. I think his floor is maybe more 60, 70-some receptions, maybe in the 800 yards, kind of what we saw last year again. And, maybe 8 TDs, 7 TDs. I think that's maybe his floor. I think he'll probably be between that. I don't know. It's hard to predict. So I guess I'm just kind of basing this off of maybe ceiling and floor in regards to these players. But all three of them are very good skill positional players. All three of them are different wide receivers. And all three of them, I think all three could definitely have solid seasons. I think all three bring a different dynamic to the offense. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know what I mean, if, one of them does hit over 1,000. I mean, that'd be great. I mean, that'd be amazing. All three did, but that's not going to happen. But I think all three have that ability to reach over 1,000 yards, to have a lot of receptions, to get in the end zone. It's just all three are different. Deontay's that yards after catch guy. He's very good at separating from the defender, man. Juju, slot guy primarily. I think he can play on the outside. He's a guy that's a reliable wide receiver. He's going to get you 90-some catches, probably around the high 800s, 900s, possibly 1,000 yards. Claypool's a guy that down the field, physical wide receiver, can get the jump balls. He's a guy that can obviously get you double-digit touchdowns. He's a guy I think that can get you, that can be a 1,000-yard kind of receiver. So I think just really kind of where the offense is, it's kind of hard to predict wide receivers, but I think really that's kind of the realm where all three of them are at. I think they all have that ceiling of being able to hit those marks, but we'll see. I think Ebron, it's going to be interesting with Ebron, man, because Pat Freiermuth had a very good camp. He had a very good preseason, especially with Ben. And I could see Pat Freiermuth really taking over most of those snaps at tight end sooner than later, simply because he adds a lot. He adds a lot more than just as a wide receiver. Eric Ebron's a wide receiver, but yet he struggles catching the ball. Pat Freiermuth, I don't think he's ever dropped a pass in college. He's got great hands. He can spread the field. He can be a reliable end zone guy. He's a big guy. He can block. I believe he's like 6. How tall is he? I think he's like 6'5", 6'6". He's a huge dude. I could easily see him taking over that tight end 1 spot over Ebron, which I really think too was a draft strategy too. The Steelers did. They drafted for now, but they also drafted for longer term as well. So Pat Freiermuth, I could easily see being that tight end 1 sooner than later. So I don't really want to make predictions on the tight end because it's kind of up in the air. I think the Steelers' best offensive lineman is Kevin Dotson for sure, 100%. I don't think there's anybody disagreeing with that. I think the guy that's probably the most interesting on the offensive line is Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green's a rookie. He's a third-round rookie. As I said, as I mentioned earlier, kind of how he is as a center, as he is as a player. He showed good things in preseason. There's a couple times he had some hiccups. Those are some learning curves and things like that. But I think the best offensive lineman is Kevin Dotson. I think the one that's the most interesting is Kendrick Green. And I think the one that's probably most worrisome is probably Okorafor. Trey Turner's healthy. When he's healthy, we kind of know what we can get out of him. He just got to stay on the field. That's it. Dan Moore, obviously, is a question mark. We have to see how he does in the season, but he had a great preseason. Okorafor, like I said, he wasn't too bad at right tackle last year, but we got to kind of see how he is in his development, so I think he's probably the biggest question mark on the offensive line, in my opinion. Defensively, like I said, this is the best front seven aside from Washington. Without Tuitt for the first few weeks, it does blow. But I think Cam Hayward's been an all-pro guy the last few years. He's one of the best interior defensive linemen. Cam Hayward, he's probably going to get you typical Cam Hayward stuff, man. I mean, he'll probably get you a good amount of sacks. He's good at getting to the quarterback. I don't really see anything different in regards of really what to expect from Cam Hayward. Tyson Alualu, very good run guy right there in the middle of that defensive line. We'll have to kind of wait and see how Tuitt is when he comes back. But hopefully the people that fill in for him are, hopefully that they're at least a good Band-Aid for him, till he's back. I'm very excited to see the Joe Schobert and Devin Bush dynamic in the middle. Joe Schobert's very good in coverage. He's also a guy that can get to the quarterback as well. Devin Bush, we'll see how he does coming off the ACL. But Devin Bush, obviously, they put a lot of investment into him 2 years ago in the draft. Sideline to sideline, a guy able to move around. He's good at stop and runs. We got to wait and see. And Devin Bush, he's quick to. I think he's got a good knack for the ball too. Sometimes I think he's a lot of times he's there on the football. Devin Bush, I definitely think if he's healthy, Devin Bush can definitely take a leap forward this year and really be solidified as one of those young upcoming inside linebackers in this league. Joe Schobert, great. I thought it was a great addition. I don't mind their depth behind them. I thought Buddy Johnson, he didn't look too bad in preseason or camp. Robert Spillane, obviously he's a big liability in coverage. That's why they got Joe Schobert. He's able to work in the run, but you don't want him starting. You don't want him playing all these snaps. Marcus Allen, we'll see how he is injury-wise, and Ulysses Gilbert, I'm not sure what goes on there. But I'm very excited about that Devin Bush, Joe Schobert dynamic. I really am. TJ Watt, obviously on the edge. I don't think there's anything different. I don't think there's anything that different to expect from TJ Watt, man. I think TJ Watt, he just gets better by the year. He'll obviously, he's obviously our best defensive player. What was I going to say about him? I mean, that's the thing. TJ Watt, he can do everything, man. He can drop back in coverage. He's got a knack for the ball. He's great at stripping the ball out. Obviously, he's always one of the top guys in sacks. Great on quarterback pressure. Great getting off the edge, getting off the tackle. I mean, there's really not much to say about TJ Watt, man. TJ Watt's obviously our best defensive player. He's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. Alex Highsmith is definitely very interesting, man. He's probably the guy that is primed for the breakout guy of this defense. As we said last year, Alex Highsmith did very well in replacing for Bud Dupree. We saw that right away. Being able to finesse tackles, being able, to get off the edge there. We saw him with multiple sacks on the quarterback. Obviously, he's not a guy that you're going to drop back in coverage. But I really like the potential and promise he has in regards to adding pressure up front, getting to the quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised if he probably finishes with 8 or 9 sacks this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think he just has that kind of high ceiling. And if he has double-digit sacks, then even more the merrier. That's amazing. So he's the prime. And I think really everybody's been saying Highsmith is the guy that is primed for, really the big breakout guy of the defense. So I'm very excited to see him as well. Melvin Ingram, I think Melvin Ingram, he'll get some good time too. He'll get some snaps too. He's not just going to stay there if there's an injury. He's going to get his time in as well on defense. So we'll see how he does, which I'm very excited about. Melvin Ingram definitely had a great showing in camp and preseason, and definitely he brings a lot to the locker room. Secondary, Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden's 32 now. Now also, there's news about him a few days ago. He's going to test the free agent market after this year. He approached the Steelers about an extension. The Steelers didn't want to do an extension right now. I think they kind of just want to see how this plays out. I obviously would love to see Joe Hayden back here next year. Joe Hayden, he's really revitalized his career in Pittsburgh, and he hasn't been slowing down at all. I think he was 31 last year. He was 30 the year before. I mean, he's been our best signing the last 10 years, 100%. So I expect Joe Hayden to still be pretty solid this year. I don't see him just completely declining. I'd love to see him back here next year. We'll see what happens. Cam Sutton, reliable guy in the slot. Did have hiccups there on the outside in the preseason as well, but he's still young, definitely has a lot of room to grow. The Steelers love him a lot. He's gotten better each year. James Pierre on the outside. This is going to be interesting too. I don't know, if the Steelers aren't in dime or aren't in a nickel package or anything like that, I don't know if they're still going to stick with Pierre on the outside or Sutton. I really don't know. But whenever they're doing that, 100% Sutton will be on the inside, Pierre will be on the outside. They like Pierre a lot. Keith Butler's raved about him. Tomlin said a lot of good things about him. He's had, I think really probably aside from Dan Moore and probably Kevin Dotson, he's probably had the best camp, the best preseason, honestly. So, graded pretty highly throughout the preseason. It's going to be interesting with this guy. This is his second year. This is his time to really take that leap. Those more opportunities, sure. There'll probably be hiccups along the way, but he's very confident himself. The Steelers are high on him, which is great. So I just don't know if Sutton is going to be on the outside aside from Hayden. If they're just strictly in man, possibly. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. Like I said, I know in those different packages, that's how it will be with Sutton inside, Pierre on outside. I just don't know if they're going to stick with Pierre on the outside, really majority of the time. I really don't know. But Pierre's definitely interesting as well. Obviously, they brought in Witherspoon. We'll see how they kind of implement him into things. I don't know if they're looking at him as a depth guy, as that fourth guy. Again, he's not an inside guy, so I don't know if he's going to, if they view him as starting caliber possibly, or if things with Pierre kind of maybe aren't there that they wanted right away. put him in there? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But they did get stronger that position through that trade because they needed to be done. Minkah, Edmonds, Terrell Edmonds, man. Terrell Edmonds is on a contract year. They declined his 5th-year option. I think Edmonds has gotten better by the year. He definitely had his best year last year. I don't think Edmonds is as bad as some people think he is. But this is a big contract year for him, man. And this is going to be something where, you know, if he doesn't really meet the Steelers' expectations in regards to him, of his growth or him growing, they probably won't bring him back. But it is possible they still do. Edmonds is interesting. I know I've said this with Pierre. I've said this with Highsmith. I know I said this with a couple guys on the offensive line. But with this being a contract year especially, he's very interesting. And he's gotten better each year. You know, I didn't like the pick at all when it happened. I still think there's probably a different direction they could have went. And it's not that I hate Edmonds. I don't at all. It's not even that I dislike Edmonds. But we have to wait and see. He had a nice year last year. I think he had good jumps from year 1 to 2 to 3. So yeah, we have to wait and see how this 4th year goes. And depending how that goes, we'll see if the Steelers want to keep him around or not. Minkah, all-pro safety, best safety in the league, in my opinion. And you got him back there, so that's great. So really looking at the defense, 100%. This is still a top defense in the league and everything. But I think Highsmith's that breakout guy. I think out of everybody on the team, he's that breakout guy. I think a sleeper guy on this team, I guess both sides of the ball. I think sleeper James Pierre. I do. I think simply because how good he's looked and everything, he can definitely be a sleeper guy. A lot of people are unfamiliar with him. Don't really know who he is. He can definitely be a guy that makes his name. I think someone that's probably the most concerning to me is probably Okorafor on the offensive line. I am interested with Dan Moore, and once, you know, with him being in game and against really the top defenses and the top guys coming his way, I'm interested with that. I think Okorafor is the most concerning to me, I think, out of everybody. Because he was very shaky this preseason. Yes, it's a hard transition, so he might have more comfortability on the right side, but I think I really going through this team and everything I just named and said, I think this is a better balanced overall team than what we saw last year. So let me know in the comments. Do you think this is a better overall team? How do you feel about the Steelers this season? If you're a Steeler fan or even if you're not a Steeler fan, let me know in the comments. I always reply back. So, I'm excited about them. I think that they're being slept on, which I think is good for them as well. You know, I think at this point in time, there are a good amount of people. There are a lot of people I think that's kind of retracted their thoughts on them. But I like them. I do. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to win Super Bowl. I don't think they will. I'm not even sitting here saying they're going to have a deep playoff run. It's possible. It's possible they win the Super Bowl. I don't know. But I think they're going to be very competitive with Cleveland and Baltimore in the AFC North. I think they will be a playoff team, as I will go into the record here shortly. I think they will be a playoff team. Are they going to start 11-0? No. But I think overall as a whole, I think they're a lot more balanced. I think they're going to be a lot more effective as a team this year than previous. So I like where they stand. I'm very interested. I do like where they sit as a team. It's possible they make another move or two before the year starts, so keep an eye out on that. But let's look at their schedule again real quick. So I know I was kind of saying, like, I was kind of going to maybe make some predictions for some of the players and stuff like that. To me, it's kind of too hard with some of these guys and to really kind of make predictions. I mean, it's a different offense this year. Defensively, I don't really think that we're going to expect... I think Pierre and Highsmith are really the two guys that are kind of possibly breakout, sleeper, you know what I'm saying, things like that. But I don't really expect anything different from our defensive guys because a lot of these guys are solidified guys, first-round talent, and this team's been a top defense the last 2-3 years, and they will again this year. So I don't really expect anything really different from these guys. Week 1, Buffalo Bills. So, really I'm not really going to go back into, really talking about this Week 1 game, because we kind of went into it just a little bit. I think they have a big chance to win this game, but I am going to say they lose this game. It's in Buffalo. Fans are going to be hot. Buffalo's going to be coming out hot. But Buffalo's kind of been having their problems, though, the last couple weeks as well. I don't know. I think the Steelers can definitely win this game. I think it will be a competitive game. So I'm not saying the Steelers can't win this game. They definitely can, but I'll go with Buffalo because, they have a very good atmosphere down there. I think their defense is a little bit better than it was last year. I don't think it's anything crazy, but I think we might see them score a little bit more points than the Steelers do. Week 2, Raiders. I think they win this game. They're back home. Raiders, I don't really think that... I think they're really a mediocre team at best. I think the Steelers are much more superior. I think the Steelers win this game, and I think we see a really good offensive showing here. I think we see a pretty low-scoring game from the Raiders, man. I really do. I think we see a good win here for Pittsburgh, 1-1. Cincinnati, Week 3. Joe Burrow back in Heintz Field. I'm not a Bengals fan, as you know, obviously. Why would I be? But I do like Joe Burrow. I did like him back at LSU. I think this is a win for the Steelers as well, going to 2-1. That defense, I think, will be too much for Joe Burrow and that offensive line. And I'm still really not too crazy on the Bengals defense this year. I think we'll see the Steelers be able to get a good amount of points on Cincinnati. I don't think Cincinnati, they're heading in the right direction, but they're not there. I still think they need a little bit more time. But they're heading the right direction. They have their quarterback. They're heading the right direction. But the Steelers definitely, I think, win this game. I don't really think this is going to be a close game. Green Bay, this is definitely going to be difficult. I don't think they win this game. Aaron, I think it will kind of be too hard to contain Aaron. Playing in Lambeau is not easy at all either. I don't think they'll win this game. It's possible they could. I mean, because I think that they'll kind of be a little bit competitive in this game, but I like Green Bay's offense. Their defense isn't too shabby either. Well, I guess we'll give this win to Green Bay. So that's 2-2. They come home against Denver. I think this is a win as well. They're back home. They're much superior than Denver. They're not going to let Teddy Bridgewater beat them. This is a win Week 5. Denver's defense, yes. Denver's defense has given Big Ben some problems over the last few years when they've played. And I do like Denver's defense. I do. I think they'll probably be a top 10 unit. But I don't think Bridgewater's really going to do enough against the Steelers' offense to really move the chains and get the points on the board. I don't see it happening. I see a Steelers win here 3-2. Seattle, Sunday night. This will definitely be a fun game, a great game. First time they play each other since 2019, right? Yeah, 2019. This is really the 17th game implemented into the season here. I might try to go to this game. I'm giving the Steelers a win here. Seattle's defense, I still think, is an atrocity. Here's the thing with Seattle, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. Seattle, I don't even know what to think about them, man, because there's times where I might not be too hot on them, but they still find a way in the playoffs, and they still find a way to get double-digit wins, which is great. I don't have anything against Seattle. I like Russell Wilson. I kind of like Pete Carroll. Their defense, I think, is an atrocity. I feel like their offense is kind of hit or miss. But I think Sunday night, man, in Pittsburgh, we're going to be getting a lot of pass rush. We're going to be getting a Russell Wilson. I could maybe see a turnover, a big turnover, something like that this game. I don't really see Seattle's defense really doing a whole lot to really contain what the Steelers can possibly do offensively. Give this a win to Pittsburgh, 4-2 on the season for them. They go into a bye Week 7. At Cleveland, man. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Okay. So this is definitely... Oh, man. I don't know what to think about this game, man. I really don't. The Steelers are going to be sitting at 4-2. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to have Cleveland at this point in time. We're going to be going through that tomorrow. At this point in time, I have Cleveland at 4, or I have the Steelers at 4-2. Good spot. They'll probably be right there with Cleveland and Baltimore at this point in time. This is going to be fun. This can be interesting, man. Cleveland, the crowd's going to be insane. Obviously, Cleveland coming off that playoff win against Pittsburgh. There's a lot happening here, man. There is a lot happening here. This can definitely be a physical game. This will probably be a close game. I don't really know how to feel about it. Pittsburgh is definitely going to be in, ready to roll again against Cleveland after everything that happened. I don't know what to think of this game. I really don't, man. I really don't. I feel like I could go either way here. Putting everything to perspective in my head, I feel like I could go either way. I don't know. I might have to sit on this game for a little bit as we go through the schedule. I might have to sit on this game. Let's move on. I'm going to have to sit on this game. I feel like out of every game here, this is like the one that's like the biggest toss-up to me because, you know, everything that really happened last year, this is their first meetup back. And where both teams will be at, they'll probably both be sitting at a pretty good spot. Cleveland did get a little bit better defensively. Steelers, I think, got better offensively. Steelers are, I think, sitting at a better team than what we saw last year. Cleveland's ready to take a leap forward this year from last year. I'm going to have to come back to it. Chicago, Monday night. So we had the Steelers sitting at 4-2. So, Chicago, Monday night. I really like the Steelers here. If this was in Chicago, I think it'd be a little concerning. They've had some issues in Chicago before over the years. Monday night here, Justin Fields could be starting this game. Monday night here in Heintz Field, though, Chicago's defense is okay. I think the Steelers definitely win this game, man, against the rookie quarterback, Justin Fields. He might make some plays here or there. I think our defense takes care of him. So that would be 5 wins. Detroit, that's a win. I don't even need to go through that. That's 6 wins there. Now, this is a game as well that I think they lose this game to the Chargers. So I have them with 6 wins right now, 2 losses. That's not counting the Cleveland game yet because I'm still kind of thinking on that. I'll probably think on that once we kind of finish off here. Chargers, they struggle in California, man. They struggle on the West Coast. Justin Herbert coming off a really good season last year. Chargers have a nice looking defense. They have a lot of guys they can move offensively, they can work with. I'm going to give the Chargers a win here. So this would be 3 losses for Steelers. Cincinnati at Cincinnati. They lost at Cincinnati last year. I don't see that happening again this year. They primarily own Cincinnati. Like I said, it's a different dynamic this year with the Steelers than it was last year. I think we see a win here for the Steelers. So that would be 7 wins. Week 13, home against the Ravens. I think they win this game. Lamar Jackson has had a hard time in Pittsburgh. He has a hard time against their defense in general. I see this being a pretty low-scoring, typical Steelers and Ravens game. Kind of low-scoring, kind of close. I think Steelers come up on top because possibly maybe a turnover or a bad decision from Lamar Jackson or something like that. It's there, man. I'm not making that up. The stats are there. Lamar has a hard time playing in Pittsburgh. He has a hard time against that defense. We'll give the Steelers a win. That's 8. At Minnesota, this is definitely an interesting game on Thursday night. Right, that's 8 wins. Let me retract here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. At Minnesota, this is definitely, I think aside from Cleveland, this might be the most interesting one. I'm not really quite sure what to think of Minnesota this year. I could see them being better, or I could see them maybe being around 500 again. Minnesota's defense isn't too bad. Kirk Cousins, he had a pretty good year last year, honestly, but he still is concerning to me, and we know how he is on primetime as well. Not very good. Not very good. So this is actually on Fox and on NFL Network and on Amazon. Who watches on Amazon? I don't know. I don't know. I could see the Steelers, really working their magic with Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins maybe make some plays. I could possibly see that. I'm going to say the Steelers win this game on the road in Minnesota, man. I do. I think I think we see them win this game on the road. I do. I like them against Kirk Cousins. I like that defense against Kirk Cousins much more than I like Big Ben against Minnesota's defense. Not saying that Big Ben's going to be bad against Minnesota's defense, but I think I like that dynamic of the Steelers defense really containing Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to have a too easy time against that. So we'll say a win here. They're home against Tennessee. I think they win this game, so that would be 4 in a row. Tennessee, they beat them last year. Tennessee's defense is ass, honestly. I do like their offense. They did a very good job against Derrick Henry last year. They contained him, I think, to like 50, 60 some yards last year. Maybe not even that. I don't even think it was that. I might be wrong on that. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't even think they contained him to that. I think he had less than that. I like Tennessee's offense. I like really what the things they can do. I don't like their defense, man. And I think we'll see. It'll probably be a close game like it was last year. I see the Steelers coming out on top and just getting more points on the board there. They go to Kansas City. I don't think they win this one. It's tough playing Kansas City. Mahomes is just a freak of nature, man, all over the place. They have a lot they got to take care of on that offensive side. Kansas City's defense still is kind of concerning a little bit. I think Kansas City will win this game. Home against Cleveland. I think we see them win this game at home on Monday night against Cleveland. And like I said, at the tail end, looking at this year at the tail end, I mean, these are big games for the Steelers, man. Really from Baltimore on, from week 13 on, these are big games for them. And this can definitely determine their playoff destiny. This could determine the Ravens and Browns' playoff destiny. They play home against Cleveland on Monday night. I think they win this game back in Pittsburgh. There's going to be a lot of things happening on in playoff contention. I think the Steelers pull this one out on top here, and I think they'll lose Week 18 to Baltimore. It possibly could be meaningless for the Steelers based on their playoff positioning. Could be meaningless for Baltimore based off playoff positioning. I think they split with Baltimore. For more times than not, they usually do. Yes, they swept them last year, and they swept them, I believe, in 2018. I think, and Baltimore swept them 2019, but usually for the most part, they usually split. I think the Steelers lose this game to Baltimore, depending on playoff seeding possibly, and Week 18, it is home in Baltimore, which it really depends where things are at. So, really going into this year, I really have kind of seen 10 or 11 wins for this Steelers team. I think that's really where they're at. Now, I think their ceiling is 12. I think their floor is 8 or 9. I do. I think for them to go 8 and 9, I feel like there's maybe has to be some kind of injuries defensively. I think maybe it's just the offense just doesn't click. Things just are not there. Things are just not working. And some of these teams they're playing just overpower them. But I see 10, 11 wins simply because I see a better offense. I see more effectiveness offensively. They still have a top-tier defense. I don't put a lot of stock in regards to who they play. I talked about this about 20 minutes ago. But I see around 10 or 11 wins. If we're going to get back to the Cleveland game, it's so hard. I'd love to see them win this game. But I'll say they lose because, they're back in Cleveland. There's a lot of things happening going on. I could see it easily being a low-scoring, very physical outing. I don't know what to say, but I'll probably have them lose. So that leaves them at, let's see here. The final record, I guess, that leaves them at, let me see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so that leaves them at about 12. I could maybe take away a win to get them to that 11 mark. I think 10, 11 wins is what they're at. So their schedule's very favorable kind of early on, kind of into the middle part of the year, but really at the tail end it's difficult, and that really could be their playoff destiny there for them, and possibly Cleveland and Baltimore. So that's really what we're looking at with their schedule there. I think they're around a 10 or 11 win team. I do. I just want to make sure. Is there anything else I really wanted to cover? Yeah, so I really think at the end of the day, they're around a 10, 11 win team. I think that's fair to say. Anyone that's saying that they're less than an 8-win team, I don't know what to tell you. You're an absolute idiot. And you hold no merit, no traction at all in regards of your opinion, because that's not even an opinion, that's stupidity. For that to happen, there's got to be something just majorly happens, for that to happen. So, honestly, if you think that, okay, that's fine. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of calling you an idiot over it because I just don't get it. I think their ceiling's about 12 wins. I think their floor is around 8 or 9. I do. But I think they're around that 10-11 win mark. I think they're right there in the middle. I think they'll be right there competing in the AFC North. I think that they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll be a better, more balanced team than we saw last year. I really do. I think they'll finish in total defense in the top 5. They'll probably finish the lead in sacks. They'll get a good amount of turnovers. Offensive line's obviously a very big question mark. I see Ben being a lot more effective. He looks great. He looks healthy. I see, he's got a good plethora of guys to work with around him, and I see the running game being better. 100%. Matt Canada, I think, will definitely work out better for them than Randy Fiechner did. So that's really kind of your Steelers 2021 season outlook, season preview of everything with where the roster stands, how we could see certain guys doing, really how we see this team doing in general. So hopefully you enjoyed that breakdown. I know this is my longest video I've ever done, about an hour and a half, but if you're a Steeler fan, I definitely think it's worth time to just kind of sit down and just kind of hear these different kind of things, and hopefully you agree. If you disagree or you agree with certain things, let me know in the comments. Even if you're not a Steeler fan, if you see this, let me know in the comments on your thoughts on them. So I'm really happy football's back, as everybody else is. I'm very excited to see how this team does. Very excited, and I think we're going to see good things from this team. I think we're going to see a nice, successful season from them, and I think we're going to see it's going to be competitive. But I think we see success from the Steelers this year, man. But yeah, so I really just wanted to talk about this and really just make this a video of its own, and hopefully you enjoyed it. So if you guys want to hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, because I'm just trying to continue to grow the channel and reach more people. And over time too, man, we're going to be upgrading things. We're going to be bringing a different dynamic as time goes on. But right now, I really just got to focus on growing the channel and just kind of gaining more traction. And hopefully we can do that here. So all your guys' support and you guys tuning in, listening, always means a lot to me. Thank you so much. But tomorrow, we're going to be back tomorrow, and we're really going to kind of be doing the same thing, but we're going to be going division by division. We're going to be going into each, kind of looking at an outlook of each team and things that we see, and ceilings, floors, maybe some surprise guys to keep an eye out for from different teams, or maybe some guys that possibly could see sleepers. We could see that. Pros and cons, good, bad. You know what I'm saying? All those different kind of things from each team. So I'm looking forward to doing that. It'll probably be just as long as this episode is, but it's something I want to do. I've been looking forward to doing it. But yeah, that is the 2021 Steelers outlook of this year, and I'm excited, as I'm sure all you Steeler fans are, and all football fans in general. Obviously, everything's back, and ready to rock. So I'm excited. So we'll see you guys here tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning back in. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy watching college football the rest of the night tonight. We'll see what happens, especially that Clemson-Georgia game should be pretty good. We'll be back here right tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you all again. Your support means everything. We'll see you back here Sunday for episode 34. Take care.